you got Dhoni to drive your bike to Bolejo Koel.
Yeah.
How? Whose idea and how did you make it happen?
The first time that they pitched Dhoni and told him that we're doing this, he just looked at them and gave a smirk. वही गाना है ना. he knew about all the
Yeah.
memes and stuff, but he agreed to do it, and I think that's going way viral. Our business has more than doubled since the time ad has come out.
Yeah?
And yeah. So it's solved for so many things.
Do you agree that he will catch fire?
People were buying tech from his
Correct.
random battery from China,
Correct.
random charger from here, putting especially when you're talking about that whole transaction layer,
Yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
where your biggest chance of catching fire is doing charging.
Yesterday's news: air conditioners are catching fire everywhere.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah. Air
Oh.
conditioners all across Delhi. catching
Maybe the
fires.
EV company should come together and like divert PR.
Okay, so I think the conclusion that everything can catch fire. Welcome to another episode of the Superleap podcast. Yes, it's a podcast about sales and marketing. So if you work in any sort of business, you can draw some inspiration, hear some stories, some anecdotes, and maybe use them in your life. Today we have a very interesting episode lined up for you. It is about one of the fastest growing industries in India. बहुत तेजी से बढ़ रहा है इंडस्ट्री से हमने दो दिग्गज लोगों को बुलाया है जो आज हमको बताएंगे इनके सीक्रेट्स क्या है किस तरह से ये लोग काम करते हैं. I have two very interesting guests with me. कुणाल गुप्ता co-founder and CEO of EMotorad. आपने ad तो देखा ही होगा. And I have Arun Vinayak, co-founder and CEO of Exponent Energy. That's correct. I have gotten both names designations
right.
correctly. Guys, can I have a round of applause for doing this amazing job? Thank you very much. Great. Before we go any further, I would like both of you to tell your stories a little bit. How did you reach here? How did you arrive? What's your journey like?
Sure. Biswa, first of all, thank you for having me. As it goes in my name, come from a Gupta family, have entrepreneurship in my blood. Wanted to always build something of my own, was still figuring out growing up क्या build करना है. As everyone goes, did civil engineering, कुछ समझ में नहीं आया क्या करना है. Went ahead and did masters in finance. While doing masters, ये डर लगने लगा था कि next क्या करना है. Fortunately, came across a very good problem statement. My college was in the outskirts of Pune. Figured that 90% of the college students are living inside the college, don't have access to commute. They're like, इनको bike rent करते हैं. 5 second hand 2-wheelers खरीदा, इनको bike rental चालू किया. Problem statement clear था, क्योंकि college outskirts में था, बच्चे बाहर नहीं जा पाते थे, movies नहीं देख पाते थे, cafes नहीं जा पाते थे, had to eat shitty mess food every single day. So in order to provide them access to mobility, started this business with 5 bikes, ran it for 2 years while studying parallelly in the college. In 2 years, that business scaled from 5 bikes to 114 bikes. Revenue scaled up to 10 lakh rupees. Was making good money, learning how to do WhatsApp business. 2 साल ये business चलाया. After 2 years, got a very good opportunity of acquisition from a funded company called On Bikes. So this business gets acquired by On Bikes. On Bikes was a Bangalore-based VC-funded company. Shifted here as a co-founder CEO. Ran this business for 5.5 years. On Bikes basically was Zoom car of 2-wheelers. So we used to rent out bike through an app. Also we used to do B2B. So Ola, Uber, Amazon, Flipkart, we used to lease out long-term bikes to IoT-driven bikes to them. Learned everything about commute in this industry, everything about starting a business, scaling a business, how to use tech, had operations all across the country. Learned everything about commute and finally figured that there's a larger problem to solve. क्या हो रहा था ना बिस्वा? At On Bikes, we were using IC driven bikes, right? All bikes were Activas, Bullets, CT100s and stuff,
Got it.
which were burning a lot of fuel. And also when you're using it for commercial purposes, these bikes had to be scrapped out in 2 years because of so much of usage, so much of maintenance. So we went ahead and we started looking for better options in life. India mein, at that point of time, there was no electric mobility per se available. This is 2015-16. So we figured out what is happening internationally. While doing our research, we came across various products, right from scooters to motorbikes to a concept called electric bike, what we call electric cycle in India. At that point of time, we imported some 25 random electric cycles to just learn and experiment more on those products. Got really fascinated about the technology, started digging deeper and figured that this is the most used product across the world. And it took us back by a surprise because India में तो electric bicycle किसने देखा ही नहीं था. And this is 2016-17. So we started researching more on it while running the business parallelly. 2019 is when we thought, it's time when I take up lunch out of On Bikes, took an exit out of On Bikes, started EMotorad, solving a similar problem. It's a globally used product, solving for last mile mobility, very economical, very cheaper. helpful for all the environment purposes. Also, since it's a global product, so आपको PMF ढूंढने की जरूरत नहीं है, day one पे market share देखने की जरूरत नहीं है. The whole industry was focusing on China for their sourcing. तो like यार इंडिया से बनाते हैं, इंडिया से ग्लोबल बेचेंगे. That was the whole thesis behind
Got it.
building EMotorad. Started it with 3 more amazing co-founders. Today, 4 years down the line, EMotorad is the largest e-bike company out of India. We have approximately 70% plus market share. We're the largest exporter from the country, and I think it's just been growing very, very wide. That's what
Got it.
EMotorad is all about today.
Got it. Sorry, I have 2 questions.
Sure.
Generally, I've seen in colleges people buy their own bikes, but you were renting. So was it like cheaper to rent for people, or then they didn't have much use for the bikes, or like?
Yeah, initially when we started on bikes, the idea always was that people are using bikes for shorter commutes. Plus, so there's a student shifting to a new city, they can't afford to buy a new bike for
Got it.
say a 3-month, 6-month tenure, right? Once they shift, settle down, and then probably they can buy their own bikes. So this use case was working pretty well. The second use case at the renting portion was these Swiggy, Zomato riders. They were not able to afford a first-hand or a
Okay.
second-hand two-wheeler. So we used to lease them bikes on a monthly or a weekly rental. That was
Got
the
it.
whole business
Got it.
model.
Just before I move on, just want to understand, इलेक्ट्रिक बाइक में मतलब इलेक्ट्रिसिटी क्या कर रहा है? आई एम नॉट अंडरस्टैंड. लाइक बाइक आई अंडरस्टैंड, लाइक एक्टिवा में मेरे को समझ आ रहा है.
साइकिल में इलेक्ट्रिसिटी
साइकिल में लाइक मैं भी तो पेडल मार रहा हूँ ना. देन इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, पहले हम लोग साइकिल से इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बनाते थे.
करेक्ट
हम लोग डायनामो लगाते थे. लाइक सो नाउ व्हाट इज हैपनिंग? आई डोंट अंडरस्टैंड.
correct. Yeah, why did electric bike come into the picture in the first place, right? As the globalization is happening, the cities are becoming bigger and bigger. Average distance of commute is becoming bigger and bigger. पहले लोग 2-3-4 किलोमीटर के रेडियस में ट्रैवल करते थे, आज वो कम से कम 3 times हो गया है, 8 to 12 kilometers पहुंच गया है globally, right? Also, average age globally has been ever increasing. We know what is happening with Japan, what is happening with Europe. Earlier, people were much more younger, much more healthier to drive normal bikes. Now they want to shift to a better use case. Globally, bike was always the first mode of commute. उसको इलेक्ट्रीफाई इसलिए किया ताकि आप पहले 4 किलोमीटर जा सकते थे, आप 8 जा सकते हो, यूजिंग द सेम हेल्थ, यूजिंग द सेम फेनोमिनन एट अ वेरी मच मोर इकोनॉमिकल कॉस्ट, लाइट वेट ऑन रोड. एंड इसलिए ऐसे इलेक्ट्रिक बाइक्स का जन्म हुआ एकदम सिंपली.
मेरे को बस ये बताओ, सॉरी आई एम स्टिल नॉट अंडरस्टैंडिंग. मुझे पेडल मारते रहना पड़ेगा, और लाइक समटाइम्स आई कैन एंड अदर टाइम्स इट विल रन बाय इटसेल्फ?
तो ये ना बहुत स्मार्ट बाइक है. इसमें it has 5 modes of operation. At the core, it is your normal bike also. You don't need to use electric. You switch off the electric portion, it works like a normal bike. Second, it has a throttle. Works like a scooter. You can use throttle. You don't need to pedal. Third, it has a pedal assist. Pedal assist मतलब आप pedal मारोगे, battery will give you more power. You can go much more faster than a normal pedal speed. Fourth, it has cruise mode. You can switch on the bike. You are going on a speed of 20, 25. You can switch on the cruise mode. You don't need to do anything. You just balance the bike. The bike will navigate by itself. And fifth, that it has a walk mode for a specific use case. A lot of people use these bikes for morning rides, going out with friends, dragging it out of the parking. So you don't want to drag the weight of the bike out of the parking. You can switch on the walk mode, keep the hand on your bike. The bike will walk with you at your own speed.
What?
So that it's a very, very smart bike in itself.
Okay, that's too much. Can you just give me a normal bike? Thank you so much, Kunal, for
Thanks.
making this bike and explaining also. That's amazing. Arun, I come to you. Little bit of your journey, and also what is full stack energy? I want to understand.
Okay, got it. Hey, I'm Arun. Thanks for having me. I'm from Bangalore. Love building stuff. That's sort of what keeps me going. Since I'm very young, I had a cycle shop when I was 5 years old. Pulled out a lot more parts than I put it in. Eventually got better at that. I think built my first car when I was 16. Had a girlfriend who dumped me. Got very angry. And I said, oh, I'll just build a car. That'll show her.
Yeah.
So, so we had this second-hand spare part. All the second-hand spare parts we put together. We had this sort of a go-kart. It was super fun. And that was the first time I rode something that I had built. And it was like this switch. And I was like, this is it. I will chase mobility all my life. So that's been my purpose. During college, did a lot of stuff around mobility. We started this Formula student team where we used to build these open wheel race cars and go to Formula 1 circuits internationally. Like we went to Silverstone, we went to Hockenheim in Germany, and we used to compete with these other colleges, and we used to get pasted, right? And I think some of us came from this. We're part of IIT Madras, so but a lot of us had this chip on the shoulder of premium college. And, a lot of people who go to IIT Madras have that, or generally IITs have that. then we used to get tulped by these tier 2, tier 3 colleges from Germany and Netherlands, right? And that was this big realization. This is around 2010 that India mein no one builds stuff, right? India was such a software services
Correct.
company, right? Industry, and so we said felt like a slap on the face. It's like we were building nothing, right? So that was sort of the inspiration. That was the second switch, which is first switch was mobility, second switch was India mein build karna hai, hardware build karna hai. And so that eventually led to this thesis like let's, and this is also coincidentally, fortunately, EV was starting to happen.
Yeah.
Tesla was happening. That was a big inspiration. So around 2013, 2014, Ather happened, which is we said let's just build in some sense the Tesla of India, and two-wheelers was the obvious choice. And back then it wasn't very popular. I think 2013 was considered borderline moronic if you started an EV company, like 100% a fail or a bunch of kids were like, we'll build an EV like an OEM vehicle manufacturing company, right? And startups is not, it's not a very startup friendly space.
Yeah.
So yeah, eventually got across the line. Back then, I think the problem was no one believed that EVs can be better. It was EVs had this connotation of this Chinese vehicle that you bought and
Correct.
and like this old man would go buy groceries next street, but we wouldn't go farther than that. So we wanted to change that. We wanted to say EVs can be sexy, they can be faster, they can be better in every regard. Around 2019, 2020, I think India got on board. The world got on board. India got on board even more. And India is like, EV,
Yeah.
we want to go electric. Everyone in India wants to go electric today. And the big problem that started coming to us was energy. Right, today, if you want to buy an electric vehicle, your biggest problem are A, it takes too long to charge. A battery doesn't last long enough. And 3, it costs too much. Right. So these are the 3 problems. And if you really look at these 3 problems, it's not a vehicle problem. Because the vehicle's already better. It's actually an energy problem. It's a battery problem, it's a charger problem, and how they interact. So that's the full stack we're talking about, right? So solving for energy is not just about setting up chargers on the ground, or it's not just building the battery tech. It's about doing both. It's about managing the entire transaction, right? So that's what we do. So we have a full stack energy company. We have the world's fastest charging tech. So we charge vehicles in 15 minutes, 0 to 100%. So even cell phones take technically 18 minutes to charge today. So we keep tracking what's the fastest charging cell phone every month. So we charge vehicles faster than cell phones.
Full stack means what is there in the stack? Like what is the...
So there are 3 layers to the stack. One is a charger, which is everything grid facing and vehicle facing. Then the battery, which is the battery sitting inside the vehicle. That's what
Got it.
stores the energy. And then we have a connector stack, which sort of manages the transactions between the charger and the battery. So that's the full stack energy.
Charger and the battery. Also, it's
The
not like a
connector.
phone charger, right? It's like the charger means the station, like
charging
okay.
station, yeah.
The
So,
charging station.
yeah, so it's not just a plug point, right? So it's actually a big charger because it's a high power charger.
Okay.
So it's like a pump. So our charger is called the e-pump. So you actually like drive into it and you charge in 15 minutes and you keep going. So it's like a fuel pump, it's an e-pump. And our battery packs are called the e-packs, which is sitting inside the vehicle.
Got it. So the stack is basically the charging station, the wire, and the battery.
Yeah.
And you manufacture all 3.
Yes.
Okay. And the fast charging thing.
Yeah.
Okay. 15 minutes. Yo, how you're doing this? Some downside? Does it have any downside? Like if you charge this fast?
No, so our USP is that you can buy our batteries and charge in 15 minutes and last really, really long. So today, if you buy a battery in the industry, the average is it takes it lasts 1,000 cycles. That's probably what you've seen. And they take 3 to 4 hours to charge. So we give you charging in 15 minutes and give you a 3,000 cycle warranty. Well, I guess in some senses, the 15-minute charging only happens on our network. So I guess that's the one, limitation.
Got it.
What is the delta of your battery? Like how expensive is it from the normal bike?
So actually, good question, right? So so batteries are bought in kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
Obviously, you get that, but certainly for everyone else to understand. So 1 kilowatt hour maybe gives you 10 kilometers of range based on which category. So generally, what happens today is you end up putting like say a lot of kilowatt hour because
Correct.
I have range anxiety.
Correct.
And what we've realized is it's not range anxiety; it's actually charging anxiety.
Charging anxiety.
Right? You don't actually know how many kilometers your Splendor gives you right on a full tank because you know there's always a petrol station. You can fill it up. So what we realized is as we've been able to set up a network that gives you reliable, rapid charging, a dense enough network that's reliable, that's repeatable, and it's rapid, people actually stop caring about kitna deti hai. Right? So
Understood.
people just say, listen, I'm okay with a smaller battery. So that actually allows us to reduce battery size, and actually in most cases our solution ends up being far cheaper, right?
So would it be correct to say it eventually becomes the network company? Of course, tech sits at the core of it, but the
Yeah.
network of charging.
So absolutely, we don't see ourselves as a tech company. We see
Yeah.
ourselves as an
Charging
energy
infra
company. We're an
yeah,
energy company.
yeah,
We're not a
yeah.
charging infra company. We're not a battery
Yeah,
company.
yeah.
We're an energy company.
Understood.
And we think energy is fundamentally two-sided.
Mhm,
Batteries
mhm.
plus charging.
Got it.
What exactly is rapid charging? Like what is the, in a very simple way, what is the mechanism that's different between slow charging and rapid charging?
Okay, so fundamentally in slow charging, in both cases you have a bunch of things called cells, which is lithium-ion cells, which everyone's heard about, right? So let's say you have 100 cells now, and you have the grid, which is your wire in the wall. Now, how do you take energy from this wire in the wall and put it in these 100 buckets, right? The difference between a slow charging and rapid charging is the pipeline in between, which is how quickly is it doing it, and how efficiently and how safely is it doing it. So today you have a lot of one-sided protocols. So you have companies that just build batteries, companies that just build chargers, which is sometimes just a plug point. Right? So in this sort of cases, the transaction is broken, right? So you end up having slower charging. Also, the charger doesn't know what is charging, so it's just blindly dumping energy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like lelo mera energy, right? So it's fairly stressful for the battery. That's why you end up having bad battery life, and you end up having slow charging. So we've sort of built that entire stack, which is obviously a much higher power stack, higher power pipeline. So that allows you to like quickly do it. So that's the difference. So it's a lot more. The electronics is fundamentally different. The thermal management is fundamentally different. There's a lot more heat. Like when you go fast, there's more heat. So a lot of heat to extract. The software is fundamentally different.
All right, my question to both of you is something I also struggle to understand a lot. And a lot of people ask this everywhere. There's discussion about EV and all. कि finally तुम जो electricity डाल रहे हो गाड़ी में, it's coming from somewhere, right? So somebody is burning something. You're not burning the petrol, but you are burning coal somewhere else. So
Yeah.
is this really better? If so, how? Floor is open. Enlighten me.
I have a very nuanced answer to it, right? While there is all technical studies around it, what I'll say is it is much easier to control the pollution in a controlled environment outside the city somewhere as it is to do it in an open environment which is inside the city. And that's what makes it step 1 day better. Step 2 can be controlling it outside the city. Very nuanced.
Yeah. Also, you can't. I mean, imagine having emission control for 20 million, or 200 million bikes.
Bikes.
I mean, who's doing it, right?
Yeah.
Versus like just few coal plants.
Battery plants. Simple in this case.
Yeah. But having said that, like for example, in Bangalore, close to 50% of the power comes from renewables.
Okay.
Already, and if you look at India generally, for the last 10 years, the amount of investment behind renewables is just gone through the roof, right? And we need to, because we really don't have that many reserves, energy reserves. I think you just have to look at this problem as like 4 layers, which is how are we generating our electricity, how are we distributing it, how are we transferring it, transacting on it, and how are we using it, which is the final layer of which is the vehicle layer we're talking about. Just because one thing is bad today doesn't mean we don't fix everything else.
Correct.
But the other layers are also getting fixed very, very quickly at a very rapid rate. So, and even I think even we did the math. Even with 100% coal, with India's grid efficiencies, which is very poor by the way, it's still better to use electric today than it is. But like I said, in Bangalore, it's 50% like renewable already, and it will get 100% renewable.
Government has a target to do it by 2050. So
100% renewable.
100% renewable. That's the target they've.
What
kept
all is
for the
covered in
country.
renewable?
And also, just to add to that, beyond everything, I think electric is just a better platform.
Correct.
Forget green, right? Like from a consumer point of view, electric is just better in every regard. Like it's faster, it's sexier, there's no vibrations.
Much more efficient, much more silent. There's no noise pollution. So that people only look at one sort of pollution, right? There's no noise pollution with electric.
And it's just like, I mean, if you drive an electric, it'll spoil you. You'll never go back. Just the amount of instantaneous torque it gives you, just go wee from signal going green. And there's everything, no maintenance. Like software becomes such an integral part of your experience now. So it just, I think it's a fundamental. It's a platform that allows you to build a brand new generation of
Correct.
vehicles. If you're building a commercial vehicle, it's better. If you're building a two-wheeler, it's better. If you're building a car, it's better.
ICE is a trap where you keep paying for maintenance, spares, XYZ. Electric is much more significant, much more cheaper, as we say, as compared to ICE. And that's where it'll win.
Okay, so I get the part about renewable energy and that 100% energy will be renewable, etc. I don't believe it. But okay, you're saying it. I don't think 100% will be renewable. Um, but also the lithium that you're extracting and the batteries have to be dumped somewhere, right? So that's like, it's not that big a problem right now.
Yeah.
But isn't that contributing to the pollution and everything?
That's true with anything. That's true with any consumer product. Then we shouldn't buy chips because chips packets.
Correct.
We shouldn't buy Coke, right? So all of that is getting solved. Plus, look at batteries today. Once a battery is made, it lasts at least, well, before it used to last 2 to 3 years. We're now already at 5 to 7 years. Soon it's going to start lasting tens of years, right? So then it's like making any other vehicle. Like, why don't you make an engine? The engine also has to get scrapped eventually, right? But if you fundamentally look at it, lithium-ion cells have nothing toxic in them. They're just salts. It's not like lead-acid batteries, which had sulfuric acid and had lead. This is just salts, right? So it's very environmentally friendly, and it can actually be recycled very quickly. And now, because there's so many batteries actually waiting to be recycled, economically it actually makes sense for you to buy the batteries back, remove the salts, and put it into new cells, right? So it's, like we have aluminum recycling and iron recycling, lithium recycling and cell recycling is already a business today.
Correct.
So it's actually
Unlike lead acid, it is going to be a much more recyclable business, and a lot of businesses already start coming in this segment. So quite simpler as compared to any other tech.
Got it.
and we're also going to sodium ion. We're going
Yeah,
to like new
yeah.
types of cells.
Yeah.
So it's not like lithium is the only way we're going to be doing it.
Sodium ion batteries. What is that?
So today, if you look at lithium ion, the primary ingredient is lithium. Even in that, before you used to have cobalt and manganese and
So sorry, before like I know there's lithium in it.
Yeah.
What does the lithium do? Like, how does this battery work? Why does it need lithium?
so if you finally look at a cell, it's a cathode and anode. It's going back to like standard physics, and then you have an electrolyte in between, right? So when you charge something, you have lithium ions that like swim across, and then it sits on the anode, and when you discharge it, it does the opposite.
Yeah.
Right. So you need lithium to fundamentally be the carrier of that one electron. So every lithium is one unit token of an electricity, and so if you have more lithium, you have more tokens.
Got it. You also use lithium ion batteries only, no?
Correct.
In your
Absolutely.
are they expensive
As compared to what?
as compared to everything else? Like, is it the most expensive part?
I think today lithium ion cells is the most evolved tech as of now available for a light mobility product, which is ours. We believe sodium ion is going to come in, step in someday. It is going to step in from a very heavy duty vehicle to our product. So for at least next 3 to 5 years, we believe lithium ion is here to stay and grow, and that's what we're investing in right now.
Got it. Okay. Sodium ion, and what stage of development is it in? Like, is it lab stage or it's used in some products? What is it?
No, it's actually it's beyond the lab stage now. We already, in fact, we actually have a lithium ion battery in our company, but it's like economically not viable. The supply chain is too erratic. It's still not produced at a large enough volume. So it's field ready, but it's still not produced at a scale that lithium ion is produced today. So it's just far cheaper to buy lithium.
Probably from the tech perspective, we might be ready, but from the supply chain perspective, it's far off.
But guys, isn't sodium like dangerous?
No,
Sodium is-
Everything that we speak of is dangerous here.
no, like I've seen these videos. Sorry, I might be very dumb. But of people just throwing sodium on water and then it explodes. Is that not
Yeah.
correct?
Is that manganese or sodium?
Sodium, I think.
Sodium.
I'm
What
not
do you
sure I've
think?
seen such a video.
You've not seen? Maybe I'll show you.
But so does petrol, right? I mean, if you do that
Yeah,
to petrol,
yeah,
so
that's
it'll
true.
explode. So
That's also true. Great. Okay. Sorry, I have one more question. Very broad question.
Sure.
Is that I literally considered buying an electric vehicle, and I just could not bring myself to do it. Okay. So I just want to understand. I mean, I'll tell you my problems with it and how you guys are solving it. First of all, electric bike. I live in Andheri, and there is not much area for me to, like every time I go from Andheri to Bandha, it becomes like 12 kilometers.
Yeah.
So I can't go by a bike, I think. So I have not considered that. Although, I mean, maybe if I live in a better place as in a place which has more area to bike around, maybe I'll do that. But car, I really considered. Okay. I'm sure some of the challenges will overlap. The fundamental problem I found, was that I was not getting peace of mind. Okay, I just felt like I'm paying a little bit extra money for a inferior car. Everything except battery is inferior than a petrol car. Like the same car that I can buy for 8 lakhs, the petrol car, 16 lakhs was the electric version, I think 16 or something like that at that time. The same car that I could buy for 15 lakhs with the electric version of 22 lakhs. Okay. Then the range that is quoted, if you take anecdotal evidence, people say all sorts of things, and you don't know if the range is correct or not correct. And I feel like if I own a car, when I need it, it should deliver, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And with the electric, I just could not get the confidence to buy that. So is this a common problem?
Absolutely.
Am I paranoid or
No.
like?
No, absolutely, right? This is a fair problem. You're not being too paranoid. I think if you just take a step back, the whole point of mobility is freedom. Why are you buying a car? I mean, from the time we started riding horses to like cycles to then more powerful cycles and then cars. Now you're Uber, Ola, where you just like get vehicle, don't get vehicle, right? So that's the sort of freedom and flexibility that we're so used to, so ingrained. And now there's this electric vehicle that's saying, hey, you got to plan your life around me versus me being there for you whenever you want, right? So I think that with every generation of mobility, we've had more freedom, we've had more accessibility. It's gotten cheaper. More people are able to afford it. Before only rich people had bikes. Now everyone's got a bike, right? And so that trend needs to keep continuing. And with EV, I think we've done this phase one of getting the vehicle better. Right. So if I go back to your example of comparing, and I think that's a good point that you brought up. If I remove this battery out of the equation, right, then you actually have an EV that's actually cheaper than its petrol variant. Right. So then you'll actually get, let's say, a 10 lakh petrol car versus an 8 lakh electric counterpart, which will actually be equal or better in every regard. It'll give you more acceleration. It'll feel better. It has no vibrations, whatever, right? So that problem is fixed. Then we got to solve for this whole battery and charging problem, right? So that's how we sort of split this into two equations, which is the vehicle better? Is the vehicle cheaper? And then is the energy problem solved? So everything around charging, is it there for you, right? How quickly can you top it up? How long does a battery last, right? And that becomes a cost problem. So if you buy a vehicle and every 2-3 years you got to keep changing the battery, which is a significant portion of the cost, then this vehicle actually is not cheaper, right? It's more expensive. So then you fundamentally need a smaller battery that lasts really, really long, and that can also be topped up like you top up petrol whenever you feel like. Right? So that's the energy problem that, for example, we are solving. And I think that's phase 2 for this industry. Phase 1 is, I think in the last 10 years has been getting the vehicle to a superior place. And I think it's already achieved. In every category, electric bus or a two-wheeler or a auto, electric is better. So.
Rightly said, right? I think there are two primary motivations of buying a EV two-wheeler, right? One is the cost. Second, at the back of the mind, it must be green. But of course, it is the cost. Why are people buying a electric two-wheeler or an electric car today, right? My cost per kilometer of my commute goes significantly low, almost to zero, next to zero, right? And that's the motivation that electric vehicles have already solved for. Now, the second motivation, as rightly said by Arun, is about solving for efficiency, solving for all these charging nuances, fast charging. I think a lot of companies, including theirs, are solving for it. In our use case, right? Our product is being used for someone by someone who's traveling around 3 to 5 kilometers radius. If they want to go beyond it, our our bike supports it. Our bike can go up to 40 kilometers, 50 kilometers, 70 kilometers. Depends on what kind of usage do you have. Does your infrastructure support it? Is the question. So most of our sales today happening in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 are primarily for the reason because the infrastructure is there for the support. People don't feel too fussed about driving on the roads, while as it is not the same case in tier 1s today. I think it will come down very, very soon. And yeah, that is where the real use case is sitting. So you'll have to look at this problem from use case to use case. If you really have a city use case only, and you shouldn't worry about buying an electric car today. Most of the electric cars are giving you range beyond 250, 300 kilometers, which solves for all your electric problems inside the society with charging.
Yeah, I mean 250 300 बोलने को तो बोल देते हैं, but I don't know. I basically जब मैं बॉम्बे से पुणे जा रहा हूँ, I don't want to be like, अरे भाई 40 किलोमीटर बचा है, पुणे 30 किलोमीटर है, पर मैं अभी क्या करूँ? But I think now there is enough. Like
Yeah.
this was 2.5 years ago when I was
Yeah.
considering. Now there's enough evidence that people have been doing. a
It's
lot
the
of
fastest evolving tech in the country. So
Right.
I think 2 years down the line when we are talking, this is not going to be the problem that we'll be sitting at. It's going
Got
to be
it.
different.
Got it. What does your bike price point kya hai?
It starts at 25,000, goes up to 70.
Okay.
Different bike sets. We've called we've got two ranges. It is called an X Factor range and Desire range. X Factor sits between 25 to 40k. From 40 to 70k, it's Desire range. Solving for different use cases, of course, better efficiencies.
Hmm.
So an X Factor, say a 25,000 bikes, it's a single speed bike, road bike used for normal road drives. Gives you a range of 30 to 35 kilometers on full throttle. You can go for our bikes, you can go unlimited because there's a pedal. So you don't ever get stopped on the road, right? As you go up the ladder, your frame design changes, your efficiencies of the frame changes, your comfort changes, and that is where the cost is going up. The battery chemistry changes, the battery range changes, and that's what we do.
Got it. Sorry, one is 25,000, second one is 75,000.
No, there's a whole
There's a whole
portfolio,
range.
yeah,
There's
whole range. So it
Okay.
starts at 25. There's 8 SKUs in our whole product portfolio, and it starts at 25, 30, 35, 40, 50, 60, and 70.
Okay. And what is the primarily what is the use case?
Primarily, it is today as we speak. 2 years ago, it was lifestyle,
Okay.
lifestyle and weekend rides. Today, it is commute, primary commute. People are going to office, people are going to colleges, people are going to their gyms or their weekend use cases, buying grocery and stuff. So it is becoming very fast a mainstream commute in the country. While our business stands very vertical, so we have 60% of business in the exports market. As you see, internationally it is a primary mode of commute. People use it for their office commute, for their primary commute, wherever they need to go, because electric bike is the only personal mobility product in the country, in the world. Why do I say that? Is this is a product which you can drive yourself to the first mile, take it on a public transport, go to the last mile. There's no other product who can do all of it, right? You can take a car, but your car can only take you so much. There's parking challenges, there's so many other challenges, right? This does not take a lot of space on the road. This drives you to the place that you want to. You can actually pick it up, put it in the back of your car if you want to, put it in any kind of public transport. It is allowed in India also now. So all the metros have bike facility. Even the buses have started now giving space for taking bikes inside it. So that's
Bus
how
ke
it's
andar?
solved. Bus ke andar, so we have a SKU called Doodle. You can actually fold that bike and take it anywhere that you want. So it's
Wow.
as simple.
So this India has been a very anti-bike
Correct.
bicycle thing, right? So how you been playing that? Because I understand you have a low end product and a high end product.
Correct.
Who's buying the high end product in
Uh,
India?
the consumer started from very lifestyle, right? India, you see a lot of people are started traveling international.
Mm.
They see everyone there riding around on bikes. I'm sure you guys have seen the same, right? People get inspired by that, come back and like, yeah, I'll 2 days a week I'll go to my office on the bike, right? It sounds so cool, it feels so cool, lightweight on the road. I reach so much more faster. We have ran this study where people who travel under 5 to 7 kilometers reach their offices earlier on e-bikes as compared to their cars and two-wheelers, because
And why would they buy an e-bike versus, let's say, a bike or a scooter or
uh,
electric scooter?
one, health. You can pedal out. So
Okay.
while coming back, you can pedal out. You're healthier.
Nice.
You
nice,
don't need to go on your cardio sessions after the office or stuff.
Nice.
Second, it is much more lighter. You don't need a license to drive it. There's so many more things, right? It is much more economical. Starts at 25,000, $30. Your IC starts at what, ₹1,00,000 and above. So a lot of differences there.
Also, signals you can cross like pedestrian.
We don't recommend that, but yeah.
Well,
That's your
technically-
selling point.
A police does not catch you on an electric bike if you're crossing signals. So yeah, as
Wow.
of now they don't.
No, because you've seen the cyclists, they get down and walk the signal, right? Because they're
Yeah.
pedestrians technically.
Yeah,
So the
correct,
police
correct.
can't catch them. So
Correct,
that same
correct,
thing
correct.
applies for you. That's great.
Absolutely, absolutely,
And license is not needed.
absolutely.
Amazing. So it's like it's something between a scooty and a bicycle. It's like the filling the gap.
You can say that it is actually completely evading the use case of a normal bike, a cycle. So we strongly believe in next 3 to 5 years we'll completely eradicate a normal bike, normal cycle in India, which is about $6,000 to $7,000. So any bicycle which is sold above that price point will be eradicated and replaced by an e-bike. Primary reason being, right, to answer your first question, why are normal bikes are always looked down in the country? How are we catering to that problem, right? Normal bikes eventually became a kapda sukhane ka stand in the country. You buy it with a lot of motivation that I'll go on weekend rides. दो तीन बार जाते हो, you get tired and you don't have any other use case apart from your fitness. That was the primary motivation of people buying a normal bike, right? With electric bike, it is not only your fitness. It solves for your commute, right? If you have to go 2 kilometers, you're lazy to pull out your car out of the parking, take it there. You just pull out an e-bike, quickly go there, come back. It's a multi-utility. Everyone in the family can use it. You don't need your ride from 11-year-old to a 60-year-old. Everyone is using it. So that's how it is solving for that. Plus, we have placed the brand, we have placed the education in a very premium category. We're taking a top-down approach. The brand always used to sell a 50,000 rupees product, told that it is an aspirational product. You should use it for the betterment of your pocket, your country, your lifestyle. And that is how people are started looking up to e-bikes. I believe what happened in the Western world is happening here right now, where people have started looking up to people who's driving bikes to the offices, to the gyms, wherever.
Right.
So I think that's a very good change that's happening in the country right now.
But do you sell only in India? You sell abroad?
Oh, we sell in 18 countries. In our own brand, we sell in 4 countries. So India, Japan, Spain. We sell on whole of Europe through Spain and UAE, Dubai.
Okay.
So
Manufacturing in?
Pune, Ravet.
Oh, so it's made in
It's
India.
in Pune. Yeah, absolutely made in India. We are putting up South Asia's largest electric bike plant. So we've scaled the business significantly. We're on track to do around 300 crores worth of revenue this year, and scaling that very fast. A lot of revenue is being coming from international markets, and there's hell lot of demand to cater to from the international markets. I believe we need better infrastructure and much more players in the country to cater to that demand. The insight that we always had was, last year this industry was $40 billion. $40 billion, 99% dependency on China. If that was the scale of dependency, I believe where this market was there for the taking, right? India is the second largest exporter of normal bikes in the country. Then e-bikes won't have been a rocket science. Of course, it requires a lot of hardware, software, tech play, right? But eventually, if you are able to make the right product, I think the world was there to open. And fortunately, how our geopolitical scenarios are playing in favor of the country, a lot of international players, right from US, Europe, Australia, are looking at India to source from the country and sell in their markets. And that is where our eyes are clear on. We've got some very deep relations in the international markets to scale this business internationally.
पर वहाँ का कस्टमर दिक्कत नहीं देता है कि इंडिया से बना हुआ माल है, पता नहीं कैसा होगा, ऐसा कोई
Uh,
परसेप्शन नहीं है?
यार वो परसेप्शन बहुत फास्ट चेंज हो रहा
हो रहा
है. ऑफ कोर्स द वारंटीज गारंटीज एवरीथिंग कम्स विद इट, बट देन आई थिंक now people have started looking up to Indian manufacturing. iPhone is doing a wonderful job, Foxconn is doing a wonderful job, now Google, Samsung, everyone is building here. So I believe they're coming here doing all the validations. In our company we require all sorts of certifications to sell in the international markets, right? This is their primary mode of commute. So imagine the kind of certification levels that we need to pass to sell in those markets. So in order to do that, we take a year for one SKU, we solve for that and then sell in those markets. Then there is no perception कि यार इंडिया में बना है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है.
Got it. Okay. Superb. Superb, dude. That's it's amazing, man. I mean, you hear about Make in India in the news,
Yeah.
but when you meet people, it's actually like,
Right.
okay, बन रहा है कुछ तो माल बन रहा है इधर.
No, you design in India also.
We design it in India. We only the sales is something where there's an external dependency. I think that's something which we need to solve for in the long run. But apart from that, there's whole lot of ecosystem that's
I was very
built in
impressed
India.
because Make in India, though, we've been making for a long time.
Yeah.
But for companies now, like for you to have a design in India,
Correct.
Indian brand. I mean, Apple product being made in India is still an Apple product, so
Correct.
it doesn't matter where it's made, right? So
Yeah.
I think the fact that it's a
As
brand
Indian as
selling
it
that,
gets.
great stuff.
Okay. So I think that's amazing work done on two-wheelers. And I'm also aware of a lot of four-wheelers. But you have chosen three-wheelers. Okay. I mean, brother, you were doing Formula One and all. Like in a
Formula
call.
student.
Yeah. As a student, you were doing Formula One. Then what happened, bro? Why three-wheelers? Like you love three-wheelers?
No.
Basically asking like it's a smaller segment. No, why
Yeah,
do you love
yeah.
it so much?
Okay, so we are an energy company, right? So we will go after all segments, but every company's got to choose a beachhead segment. You got to choose one power segment, and for us, it's very clear that in India, it's commercial vehicles. Right? So in India, we sell 20 million two-wheelers. We sell a lot of cars. We only sell 1 million to 2 million of commercial vehicles every year. they're only 10% of the vehicles, but they consume 70% of our energy on road. Right? So as an energy company, we're not counting number of vehicles sold, we're counting amount of energy used. So if you are paying 10,000 rupees a month on petrol versus say a two-wheeler who's paying like maybe 1,000 rupees, 500 rupees a month on petrol, then you are far more valuable a customer for us to go after and get you to go electric. It's also easier for you to see the benefit. 20% saving for you is a lot. 20% saving for the cycle owner is not a lot, right? So that's how we look at the math, right? And if you look at a commercial vehicle, a lot of the vehicles they're not parked at home, so you can't even charge at home. Right? A lot of us park on, even people who own expensive vehicles park on the road in India. Very India specific problem. Second is these are the segments that need to keep running. So they're not 80 kilometers, 70 kilometers, 100 kilometers not good enough. They need to do 200 plus kilometers on a daily basis. And the answer can't be I'll give you very large batteries because whatever battery you give, it's not big enough, right? You always want to do more. So there's a lot of ambition to earn. That's the earning product. Right? They're buying that to earn on top of that. And so this is the need for uptime, flexibility, the need for rapid charging in that segment is very huge as a constant energy sale. If I look at the city, every three-wheeler consumes almost 10x more energy than a two-wheeler. Right. So as a charging business, if I set up a charger, I'd rather charge. It's like if I'm charging 10 three-wheelers a day, it's far more profitable than charging 100 two-wheelers. Right. So as an energy business, commercial vehicles make a lot of sense. And three-wheelers is just the place we started. This year we're launching a bus, which also charges in 15 minutes. So it's like
Three-wheeler bus? No.
it's a six-wheeler bus. We stuck two three-wheelers together.
So just to add to him, right? And this is for all the people who are looking at a startup, right? While you're building a startup, you really need to go niche and solve for a problem and then go wider. Is how I personally see it, right? When we entered this market of electric cycle, particularly in India, all the studies said that the market is $1 million annually. It does not build a business. You don't build an 8 crore rupees worth of business annually, right? But we foresee that eventually we'll get wider, we'll be able to educate the consumer better and grow the market along with it. And so sometimes the market really surprises you. Same happened with us, and I think same happens with a lot of companies. You enter, solve a niche problem, take a significant market share in that small problem, and then go wider. That is how we are solving for it. I'm sure that is how you guys are solving for it. You don't always run behind bigger TAMs. So it's just a faff, and if it's such a bigger TAM, some company, somewhere, large company must have solved for it. So that's how I look at the problem.
Okay, superb. I think that's a very valid point that solve a problem in depth rather than try to address a lot of people. I think that's true of everything in life, actually. I have a question. I had not prepared this question. This just popped up in my head. Because you're saying you're an energy company, this was one of my concerns while trying to buy a car. I just couldn't buy it because I was like, I don't know when the charging infrastructure will come. Okay. I have 5 chargers in my building and they're always occupied. And I just don't know because, anything that is promised, when it will be delivered, etc., etc., etc. Are you working on solving this problem? When is it going to be solved? What is the approach to solve this?
Absolutely. That's why we look at this whole full stack solution, right? So it's not just about building a battery or selling your vehicle, because then the consumer's like, hey, where do I charge, right? And you're one of the lucky few who actually has an apartment parking, right? A lot of people don't. So that's what we're trying to solve for. So apart from selling the technology, we actually set up a network in every city. So in Bangalore, for example, on day 0 we had 30 network points, right? And now we're actually getting to a place we have 100 plus network points. To put this in perspective, CNG only has 60 network points in Bangalore, right? So we're giving you a far more dense network.
Where do you put them up?
We put them up in public locations. We generally prefer roadside, curbside charging opportunities. So we want you to just get off the road, charge, and keep going, right? Again, to put this perspective, in Bangalore, there are only 300 petrol stations, like all brands put together. So if you look at what we think is ubiquitous, what we think is everywhere, there are only 300 of them. So it's not that hard. And setting up chargers is very easy, right? It doesn't cost that much. Setting up a petrol station costs 2 crores, right? Setting up a charging station costs a couple of lakhs. It's just far easier to set up a charging station. You can set up everywhere. The problem has always been this chicken and egg. The guy setting up the charging station, first is like, where are the vehicles? Right? Second, I set up a charging station, I charge 2-3 vehicles a day. It's a terrible business because of slow charging. So that's what we're solving. So we seed this together. We solve chicken and egg just like on one shot. And that's also the reason why we pick three-wheelers, we pick commercial vehicles. Because that's like the power-hungry segment, right? Where we're able to go say, hey, here's 1,000 autos, bam, on the road. Here's 30 charging stations. And that sort of keeps the ecosystem running. And so yeah, that's how we solve it. And the consumer is happy because consumers like on day zero, hey, I've got a vehicle, the charge is 15 minutes, there's a network, there's an app, there's this whole ecosystem that allows me to do my business on a daily basis.
Mm.
And so that's what we solve. And
But when, like, practically, I think inside the city is not that big a problem, honestly. For me, at least. I'm sure it might be a problem for other people. But practically, when can the charging infra become as widespread as the, fossil fuel infra in India?
yeah, I think it's with every segment we're starting to see, like it started with two-wheelers, right, which is fully intracity. Now we're starting to see three-wheelers, which is also intracity. Now we're starting to have mini trucks and
Yeah.
buses. So in this year we're actually going to be electrifying highways, right? So we're going to have big charging stations along the highways. But like I said, we pick the beach segment, right? The beachhead segment. For us, commercial vehicles are the beachhead segment, right? So in the next couple of years, we want to electrify all the highways, and we're going to be using commercial vehicles to pay for them. Like petrol stations on the highway that make a lot more money because they fuel buses and trucks than fueling cars. So cars cars have always, personal mobility is always latched on to the network that's being built by commercial vehicles, right? So so we're taking a similar approach with electric chargers. So I can't set up 10 chargers and expect cars to come and charge and make money on that. It doesn't make sense. So we're actually building a network nationally on commercial vehicles. So we're launching a bus this year, and we'll get the golden quadrilateral, which is like the big quadrilateral, which is like pretty much where everyone drives. That's only like 6,000 kilometers.
Correct.
Right? Maybe every 100 kilometers we have to set up a charging station. That's 60 charging stations. That's not too hard. So I think in the next couple of years you'll see all of that go electric, and you'll be able to buy an electric car.
I have been waiting, man. I just really want to buy it, but confidence is not coming. Maybe after this podcast.
For our category, we solved this problem very fundamentally. When we started business in India, we realized people are not going to charge their bikes in the parking. They're scared. There's no infra. All the same problems, right? What we were discussing. We created a bike where you can just pull out the battery, charge like your mobile phone, like your laptop, how you do at home.
Absolutely.
The benefit to our bike is you don't get stuck on the road. You pedal it to somewhere. It charges at 1 minute per kilometer kind of a play. So you can actually charge it for 15 minutes, take it back wherever you want to in the home, and it gets as simple. So all our bikes comes with removable battery. Charge it like a mobile phone.
Do you have a dynamo in it? Like, can I charge it while?
No. I know that tech. While the tech is there, but it's too expensive for us to cater to countries
Bro,
like
dynamo
ours.
50 रुपए का आता है
अरे
bro.
dynamo.
ये क्या बात कर रहा है भाई?
Revolving charging is quite expensive in the bikes.
Okay. Yeah. The dynamo can't
Right now,
you need
no.
a good dynamo basically, or a
High
good
powered
human.
dynamo.
Yeah, high power human you need. Okay.
Correct.
And in your bike, can you put like Google Maps and all on a
Oh,
phone?
absolutely. We have an app where you can look what's happening with the bike, what's happening with the batteries and stuff. Also, you can put maps. You can track your calories, what you want to burn. You can actually say that I'm going to my office, which is say 3 kilometers away. I want to burn 200 calories on the way. The bike will recalibrate itself and put it into a power where you'll end up burning 200 calories.
Wow.
So that's what it is overly solving for.
Great. So I'm moving away a little bit from just this infra and charging and stuff. You got a very interesting person to do a very interesting ad for you, which was, I think, when I saw it, I couldn't believe it. You got Dhoni to drive your bike to Bolejo Koel.
Yeah.
How? Whose idea and how did you make it happen?
Yeah, so the idea behind Dhoni was we are sitting in a category which needs a lot of awareness. Also, we have a distribution which is spread across the country, right? So you need a phase that cuts through north, east, west, south, all of those things. I think Dhoni is someone who sits across that well. He's a motorhead himself. So sits across the category, across our consumer and brings in a lot of trust in the category. So that was one that was solving for. Secondly, coming to Boleje Koel, right? I think our marketing team along with the OHC team, Akash, who's done a great job here, has really killed it with it. The first time that they pitched Dhoni and told him that we're doing this, he just looked at them and gave a smirk. Wohi gaana hai na. He knew about all the memes and stuff, but he agreed to do it, and I think that's going way viral. We've got 180 million organic views. It's flew off so well. Our business has more than doubled since the time ad has come out.
Yeah?
And yeah. So it's solved for so many things. While we were clear while getting an ambassador, right? We're not we're not going to take it too much on TV and stuff while our consumer is sitting through YouTube. So the top of the funnel was always through YouTube. Secondly, uh, we wanted to bring down the time per sale in the store. So how it worked for our category is a person walking into a multi-brand outlet where our bikes are also available and normal bikes are also available. They used to inquire about the category, learn about the category, and the whole journey was 25 minutes. We wanted to bring that journey to 5 minutes. पहले क्वेश्चंस क्या होते थे कि यार कौन सी कंपनी है, ट्रस्ट नहीं है, आफ्टर सेल्स कैसे होगा. The moment we've put a Dhoni board there, Dhoni sitting on the bike, all of that is solved for. Now it takes 5 to 7 minutes to convert the consumer.
Nice.
So the time of sale becomes so fast, and I think it's becoming a great case study for why you should onboard a celebrity and what you should actually do with it. So yeah, that has been
That's
our
great,
insights.
man. So you went and told Dhoni that, sir, meme तो आपने देखा ही होगा. And Dhoni was like, साले, meme पे नचवाने आ गए तुम मेरे को. But he's so cool, man.
I believe so. He's so humble, so cool. Loves the bikes. He knew so much about EV as a whole. Yeah, he inquired about what kind of use case do you have, where are you getting the batteries from, what is the charging time, what is the tech evolved in that. It is so much insights that this guy knows. He's a big motorhead fan of 50cc engines, and he's like, yeah, now I'm trying to shift to EV. I think this looks very interesting. He's right now trying to teach his family how to ride a bike, how to ride an e-bike. So it's evolving very well with us, and there's a lot more to come along with him.
That's insane, man. I think it is one of the best campaigns I've seen in recent times, apart from Cred.
Yeah.
This is one of the best ones.
No, but
Yeah,
like I
thank
think
you.
great case study of using a celebrity to talk about a new product, new
Correct.
category.
Correct.
I think we're talking about how in legendary brands using celebrities, I sometimes don't get it, but like this was like a perfect example.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and it also connects to your target audience.
Exactly.
Young
A lot.
people.
Yeah, young people. So the crowd, which is say kids, 11 to 15-year-olds who's trying to buy a bike, for them we need to influence their parents. For their parents' influences, again, MS works very well. So it is turning out to be a very good case for us. Also, e-com sales have scaled because of obvious reasons. People now see not only the bike, Dhoni standing behind it. So no amount of reviews, no amount of performance marketing can solve for that.
Yeah.
Is something which we solve.
Yeah, and Dhoni is one of those rare celebrities who cuts across generations.
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
anybody
Yeah.
from 15 to 50 is a big fan of Dhoni.
Yeah.
I love that. Love that ad. Now my next question is anti-advertisement. ईवी में आग क्यों लग जाती है दोस्तों? ये क्या दिक्कत हो रहा है नया? Do you agree that EVs catch fire? I mean, we have seen the footage.
Yeah, EVs catch fire. So do IC engine vehicles. Yeah. So I think there was a report statistically to show that
Yeah.
the incidence of fire is same percentage wise. Is that
I
EV?
think in last quarter it has been more in IC as compared to EV. But EV was highlighted more for.
But EV is
obvious
obviously new
reasons.
tech, so it's
Yeah.
like gets a little more glitz and glamour and all the negative of glitz and glamour. But having said that, that problem is getting solved. I think.
I think it's with the AIS 156 norms, it is
Yeah.
almost solved for. I don't think we've faced a single challenge till now. Most of the companies haven't faced a single challenge in terms of fire in EV. So that's a tech which is solved for. So it is very 2022 for EVs to catch fire. Of course, there can be one-off cases in extreme situations, but I don't see that problem to exist or pertain for a long time from here.
Fundamental problem there also people were buying tech from these
Correct.
random battery from China,
Correct.
random charger from here, putting especially when you're talking about that whole transaction layer,
Yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
where the biggest chance of catching fire is doing charging, right? That's the most stressful process for a battery. So when you're doing all of this randomly, it can lead to a lot of fires. But with the new regulations, what he's talking about,
Correct.
India's actually got the most stringent regulations in the world.
Yeah.
In the Indian EV regulations are the hardest to meet now, and if you meet that, then very low chance of
What exactly in the EV catches fires?
the cells.
It's the cells. Simple.
What inside the cells?
Lithium, you put water, you burn it, and if it's not an evolved cell, it will catch fire.
The visible fire that you see happens during something called short circuit, which is so if the lithium ion cell goes beyond 150 degrees Celsius, it will catch fire. Right now, to go to 150 degrees Celsius, it's not a summer thing. Everyone said, "Oh, summer hai, isliye aag laga." It's not true. Actually, there's some sort of short circuit. Either a wire hai which got cut, or maybe there's a nut and bolt that's got loose and it touched the cells. Or cells internally,
Correct.
if you overcharge them, internally it'll puff up. So you'll actually see the cell. You remember the old phones used to get
Correct.
bulged over time. It's because back then the technology was so primitive that it would overcharge your mobile phone. So the same thing happens here. A bunch of cells puff up and then they catch fire because the internally short circuit hota hai, to like it's infinite current. Like it's
Correct.
current is
Yeah,
unlimited. So then your heat is a lot. So that's
And why do IC vehicles catch fire? They have no short circuit. Why do they catch fire? It's just the fuel.
actually I don't know. Do you have electrical
no,
fires? There are a lot of wiring these days in IC engine vehicles. So you have a lot of electrical fires. And I think
I still don't know the causes of it. There's a lot of fire. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of data studies now after EVs that have started coming on ICs. So reading that, but don't know the cause of it.
But like, is there a statistical way to, like, for example, yes, once in a while there are flight crashes, but statistically speaking, it's the safest mode of transport.
Yeah.
Like, is there any statistical way of, like, any statistical data point, something? Because as a person who is willing to buy, if I see one EV on fire, I am not buying. I am not buying at least for like 1 year.
yeah.
It's off of my mind. Like,
Yeah.
imagine a person just considering ki, and everybody, like, like, from the customer's point of view, and
Yeah.
as a customer who has not gone through with
Yeah.
it, first of all, I kept waiting ki, "Oh, wala gaadi aayega.
Yeah.
I will take it." Okay. Then that car never comes. Some regulation, okay. And it's not even Tesla. I'm not even waiting for Tesla, right? Some other car I was waiting for. Then half the people in your life are like, "Bro, just do it, bro. We'll go, we'll have fun." Okay. And half the other people are like, "It's very stupid. Don't do it. The time has not come." Okay. And so you're stuck in the middle. So you're trying to every day watching some Autocar India, this and that. What are people saying? People's review, etc., etc. And again, you go to the reviews, both sides. Okay, bro, best decision and worst decision. Okay, everybody just going on there, this thing. And then at some point you see some fire, and you're like, that decision is made. So is there anything that can like comfort somebody who's willing to buy but is deterred by this?
I don't know if there's a stat to it. I think this problem is solved for now. Have you heard about any fire in last 1 year? Almost
No.
9 months. I don't think so. There's any more fire cases coming up. Might be one off somewhere, and it's of course picked up. It's a whole PR gimmick, but then I don't think there's really fire in EV left. That problem is solved for, or almost solved for.
I don't recall the statistics, but there was something that actually proved that EVs have lower
Correct.
percentage incidences. Then I don't remember the statistics, but we could like pull that up and share it.
Sure.
But but I get it, right? Like if your fridge caught on fire, you would stop buying fridges, right? Like so we like especially if you're owning a passenger vehicle and you're or a two-wheeler, you're parking at home, it's gonna dent
Yesterday's
the market for
news:
sure.
air conditioners are catching fire everywhere.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah. Air
Oh.
conditioners all across Delhi catching
Maybe
fires.
the EV company should come together and like divert PR towards air conditioning catching fire.
Okay, so I think the conclusion that everything can catch fire. Okay.
Not really.
Yeah. Okay, great. So we have addressed that. The next question is, China has been traditionally the manufacturing hub for
Yeah.
EVs, and what I'm understanding is India is now catching up. Am I correct in understanding that?
Yeah.
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 Okay. So what are some differences, similarities? What can we learn from them? What can we do better?
Yeah, in our category, there's of course a lot to learn because China has been developing this product for almost last 15 years. While it's a new tech product, China built great hardwares, great tech in terms of hardware. But when it comes to software, they couldn't build it because the product was global. I believe strongly, China is not great at building software layers on top of hardware layers, and that is where we come into play and we win. I believe our tech in India is
Sorry, I
quite
don't
evolving.
understand. Software layer on top of hardware layer.
So basically, building an embedded tech on your bike. So small problem like locking it remotely, putting a geofence around it. So small GPS problems. So China is great at building hardwares. When it comes to software, they can't host an app sitting in China, which is available, say in Europe, US, India, anywhere else, right? While we can do it, we've got great software engineers. We already solved for that. So we solved for software first in the country, and now hardware is, I think, ever evolving. It is evolving so fast. We all are solving for it. In our category, I think we've already surpassed the tech which is available in China and learned from them and evolved much better in that. So world is looking at us today.
So, what is some example of a thing that you've learned from China?
We've built what we've learned from China.
Yeah. Like, what you've done better?
What we've done better is building a connected drivetrain, a connected mobile application with the bike, which solves for every feature I was talking about, right from locking to monitoring to calorie burn, all of that. Uh, the product was not new. The requirement was not new. Everyone in Europe, US is asking for this requirement. China, since it has mass produced, it has become a giant right now. It is very tough for any single consumer to navigate that and get it done from there. I think we are much more frugal, much more cumbersome, and we build for real use cases, which is happening for India, happening for US, happening for Europe, and that is where we solved it for. What we learned from China is, of course, a lot. The kind of culture they have in manufacturing, the kind of speed that they work at, the kind of infrastructure that they've developed. I think we as Indians still need to match the speed of China, but in terms of tech and software, I think we're way ahead
Got it.
from there. Yeah.
Got it. What are your learnings?
Yeah, I think we're playing a very different game. I think this whole thing we need to compete with China. I think it's a good geopolitical agenda. I think we need to get smart that on both demand and on product development, the game is different for India, right? For example, when we launched Ather, everyone talked about Chinese scooters and Chinese bikes, but they were actually competing to replace bicycles and factory workers taking these bicycles.
Yeah.
They were actually competing on that category. So very low speed, very low cost, very low quality product, right? And China accepts that. Right? India doesn't accept that. In India, when you had to launch a electric scooter, it had to compete with an Activa or a Yamaha or a Pulsar, right? So at a decent price point. So India's doesn't accept low cost, low quality products, right? India is actually fairly demanding with respect to quality that they want, and also how much they're willing to pay. So it's sort of an over constrained problem statement. And if a company is able to innovate and crack that precision point
Correct.
of the right price point and the right value, you will suddenly see an inflection point in India. And on the manufacturing side, we're so far behind manufacturing infrastructure and on commodities.
Yeah.
Cell manufacturing, we're very behind. Aluminum and just like in China's invested over 20, 30, 40 years behind vocational training, behind like it's okay to be a factory worker in China.
Yeah,
Like people look up to that sort of job. In India, being a vocational trainer is like work in the factory is considered like, no, that's not what I want to do. Everyone wants to leave that. Everyone wants to join IT for some reason, right? So like over the last 30, 40 years, China has got this huge head start on fundamental manufacturing, right? And that's okay. What India can do better is build on top of that. Exactly what he said is buy your raw commodity hardware from China, but how do you put it together? For example, we buy cells from China, but we've learned how to put it together and deliver 15-minute charging.
Correct.
Right? And that's a lot of the electronics and the software layers on top of that and how you integrate all of this. So I think the consumer insight in India is unique. The products India is seeking is very unique. And I think how you put it together for India has to be unique for you to build a moat. If you're just going to buy commodities from China and sell it here, the trading mentality won't work here.
Yep.
And I think the trading mentality is also what led to fires, but I think it's also not sustainable.
Totally believe in the fact that you don't need to reinvent the wheel and build something which China has built over the last 3-4 decades, right? You can always take that from them and build on top of it and build a much better product for suiting your use case. Don't need to replicate what's happening there.
So the make in India becomes a
Absolutely
thing, right? Actually, it should be designed in India. Like
Mm.
make in China also, it's fine. It's not a bad idea. I mean, geopolitical problems aside, like it's okay to make it anywhere in the world. What does it matter, right? Like you gotta. I think the biggest value when Apple sells a iPhone, the biggest, it's manufactured in China.
Yeah.
But if you just do the value accreditation cycle, which is like where does the most of the value go when selling an iPhone? It's actually the person who owns the IP, owns the
Right.
design, owns the technology. So making in the world doesn't matter. I think you got to, and I think that's
But I
fantastic
think
because
that's also geopolitically getting aligned. India is getting a lot of opportunities that way. Like in our category, if we have to sell a bike in Europe, we pay up to 6% duties. If China has to sell, they say they pay up to 87% duties legally. So it's such a wide difference, right? So we get a head start if you want to enter these places. In US, it's the same. I think Joe Biden just announced that there's 100% tariffs being introduced for Chinese products in EV. 100% tariff is a massive difference, right? Now India gets to compete in all other geographies as compared to
Okay, one last thing I want to discuss with you guys. there are a lot of internal combustion engine, and you guys call them ICE, ICE companies, but there are very few ICE startups. Like, since I have been alive, I don't remember a single company that has come up. Okay, it's the same five companies that five, 10 maybe in India that keep selling their cars. But ever since EV has come, every day there is one new startup, okay, doing ads during IPL. So why is EV? Why there's so many startups in EV? Why can't the legacy companies just make the EVs and like sell them like they have always done? What is do startups have an advantage or what is it?
I mean, they were IC engine startups, right? But they were in early 1900s. That's when the IC engine disruption happened, right? There were a lot of startups. Like, I mean, Mercedes-Benz was a startup, and Ford was a startup when they all started. And actually, I think Sweden has some 200 plus car companies that started up over time, and a lot of them failed, but some of them succeeded eventually. So startups happen in IC engine as well. It just happened so long back. Unfortunately, fortunately, actually, it's mostly unfortunately, I think the industry went into this hibernation between 1980s to 2010. There was like a 30-year of hibernation where
Where everything was selling, whatever they were
Yeah.
making was selling.
that's when finance people took over the companies, where
Absolutely.
innovators were missing,
Absolutely.
and they just try to milk the platform. Like, if you buy a Polo in 2010, it was a 1975 platform that they just have milked it and milked it and milked
I
it.
think same is the case with a lot of two-wheelers that are being sold today. The tech must be 1990s. They're still selling today.
Wow.
That's how badly it has evolved. I think it is very tough for elephants to move and take turns and uh, get into a newer tech. Is how I see it. I think if you've made a significant platform, you'll milk it as much as you can, and that's the philosophy. And that's where I think startups exist in the world, right? There's always a tech that is available. People try to milk it for a long period of time. There'll be new companies working on new tech, new problems. If they evolve, there are two solutions: either these guys become too big, or they'll be what do you call it, acquired by a larger giant. And that's how I believe India's ICE players are waiting for. They'll eventually go out and try to buy out new age companies or wait to fail.
इतना सिंपल तो होता नहीं है कि फेल हो जाएंगे वो लोग कुछ तो होगा
It's not that simple. I don't think they will fail. Um, I think they've got a fundamental advantage in distribution, in financing, in manufacturing. And I think it's great. 90% of that is transferable to
Yeah.
EV. So I think you'll see a lot of new age challenger brands from startups. Like, no point building a startup to sell an electric Honda Activa, because
Right.
Honda will just do that better. TVS will do that better. And it's happening today. So if you look at all the challenger brands, they're building the higher performance, higher spec, higher experience products, which I think from a fundamental DNA perspective, large OEMs don't have that capability to build higher performance, higher specs, higher experience, right? And so they build out the most safer products. So if you look at two-wheeler, more than 50% of vehicles sold are by startups today. Right? That's true, also true in three-wheelers. Like, more than 50% of vehicles, three-wheelers sold in India today are electric, and most of them are startups, right? So that challenger brand is being built by three-wheeler, by startups. The other thing is also the technology layer, right? So I think there's a lot of space for startups to build technology layers in this industry, because what large OEMs will do is they'll acquire or adopt or buy technology, which they've done in the past also. Like, it's not like an IC engine OEM
think
today is making their engine.
Hero went with Honda. Everyone tries to take some technology from outside or from your country, adopt it yourself, and that's where, as rightly said, right, that's where their benefit is. They have the distribution, manufacturing, loads of cash to eventually adopt this technology. I think they're still waiting for this technology to be evolved enough to solve for all the problems that we discussed today, and eventually step into it. I'm not sure if they're not shying away today, right? They've started in some capacity. Every single company have started in some capacity working on EVs, and they'll evolve much more.
got it guys कब तक when do you think, and if ever,
Hmm.
and is this even practical, when will you see 100% electric vehicles on the road? Like, what do you guys think? Or is it necessary? Is it practical? Is it useful?
It'll definitely go electric very quickly. And I think the answer is based on category, right? I think, like, commercial vehicles will go electric really fast, right? Because we're at the tipping point where electrification makes sense, and it's all a very cost-driven, efficiency-driven segment. So like I said, three-wheelers are already 50% electric already.
Is that true?
50% of new electric vehicles sold are are electric. 50% of new three-wheelers sold are electric.
So, just to put it another way, if say I'm going to Bangalore airport and I see 100 three-wheelers, how many of them will be electric?
So that's an installed base question, right? Because we've sold IC engine vehicles for like 20, 30 years.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we have all that baggage to clean up. But so that will probably take longer. So when you look at installed base, where 100 vehicles on the road, how will all of them go electric? I think that will take, because generally a vehicle has a 10-year lifespan in India.
Right.
So it takes 10 years. I've already bought an IC engine vehicle last year.
Yeah.
So that's only going to get out of the road 10 years from now. But what we can control is what are the new vehicles getting on road.
Because my guess is it's around 1 in 10 or 1.5 in 10 is what I see on the road.
But that's changing fast, right? The amount of, or let's say the percentage of electric vehicle growth story is much more higher than what is selling in ICE. So ICE might be growing while they have a very large base as compared to EV. ICE might be growing at what, 3 to 5%, not more than that for sure. EV is growing at more than 20-25% right now. So eventually it will catch up 5, 7, 8, 10 years down the line, but it will catch up and grow much more faster. Is how we see.
So
it.
generally
I'm
the
not
rule is,
doubting.
let's say there are 100 vehicles in a category. Every year you're adding 10 to it. So 100 three-wheelers on the road today, you're adding 10 to it. But out of the 10, 5 are already electric. Right? So technically 5% in 1 year, you've 5% of the vehicles are electrified. Right? And 10 have been deleted. Right? Because they've now been scrapped. Now, what's happening is also the rate at which is being deleted is fast. Like in Delhi, for example, their policy is forcing you to delete faster. New companies are bringing incentives so you to delete faster. So that suddenly from 5 out of 10, 5 out of 100 could become 50 out of 100 very, very quickly.
I think fundamentally in our business case, there's a clear example of Europe. So Europe started promoting electric bikes in 2016. From 16 to 20, they gave out 30% subsidies on the product. Today in Europe, 7 out of 10 bikes that are sold are electric. Normal bikes, that's a comparison to the normal bike, right? So they've already started electrifying a lot of commute, and I'm sure they'll keep promoting it. Same is going to happen with India. It might not happen with subsidies, but I think the use case is driving the sales today rather than the subsidy. We strongly believe in next 5 to 7 years, we'll be able to replace every single premium bicycle in the country with an electric. It can be.
Got it.
To answer your previous question on startups, I'm generally riffing
Yeah.
here. Like in your own industry of entertainment, when we've gone from cable to OTT, it's actually startups that have done the
Of
job,
course, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So because the content creators remain the same. Actually, that's also changed. Right?
That's saying, no?
So I think the rules of the game have changed in entertainment. Right? That's also what's happening with EVs, right? The
Right.
rules of the game have changed.
See, I'll tell you what is happening in my industry, right? A lot of incumbents of ours were selling normal bikes, and they wanted to, of course, step into electric bikes. Now, 95-98% of the revenue is coming from normal bikes. When an e-bike comes into play, it says that normal bike is stupid. You shouldn't buy that bike. You're wasting it eventually, wasting your money by buying it. You can't contradict your own business, 95% of your revenue saying that. So, and that's where the challenge is sitting, right? For them to shut off that revenue is impossible.
Got it.
And that's where people like us will come in, scale that revenue, and probably they'll invest, acquire, or probably shift.
So you need a Netflix to create that.
Correct.
Before you have the Hotstars and the Disney.
Exactly.
Even then, I think there's an acquisition route.
Yeah.
That eventually they'll.
Got it. I mean, I don't think entertainment and EV are comparable because this is much less capital matlab ki entertainment, the cycle of feedback is much faster unless you're talking about movies. You put a show on TV and within like 7 days you know, okay.
Yeah.
And the expense that has gone into it is also not that high.
Maybe similar to movies. How much does movie cost to like?
Movies, anything.
Like 100 crores, 200 crores?
Yeah, it costs. I've never made, but from what I hear, it can cost anything, bro.
Yeah.
And I have heard that nobody actually knows how much it costs. Nobody really actually knows.
Yeah.
It's very comparable. Like a startup doesn't need more than 100, 200 crores to disrupt, right? To start.
I don't think that's true.
You need more.
Of course. How much did you raise in Ether?
Lot more.
Disrupting,
Eventually.
right? Yeah. So you.
Well, that's like a 10-year movie.
You
Like,
need-
this is like a 3-month movie.
Yeah. To start an OEM business, you need a lot more capital. A $10-15 million. Without that entering, I think we hear a lot of EV startups failing, right? Where they are failing also is not having enough capital in place to take whatever products or technology that they're developing to market. Initial capital in place, right? After that, the tech evolves. That's where I believe. That's where the sad part of the EV ecosystem in the country is.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just again. You said so. I started doing analysis in my head. The thing is, like in entertainment, what happens is the product cycle is not comparable because you have a lot of technical standards to meet. We do have some standards to meet, but it's not as rigid. And the ticket size is like what a TV movie ticket cost what 500 rupees, and it's not a lifetime commitment. Also, like not a 10-year commitment. That if now I watch only this movie every day, morning and evening, I watch this movie, and I can't watch any other movie. I can watch other people watching their movie, but I can't watch. It's not like that. Like I'm comparing to
Yeah.
a bike, right?
No, I think I was making a point on channels
Yeah,
and,
Right.
and platforms.
more on the platforms
Right?
than
I'm talking
the movie.
the platforms of choice today and the channels of choice today are all startups.
Right.
Right? It's not cable.
Correct.
Right? It's I mean your 80% top of funnel is YouTube. Right?
Yeah.
We are advertising on
Correct.
Twitter, Instagram. So like it's all been startups in the last 20 years that disrupted that. So I'm saying
Correct.
that's similarly what's happening. Because the fundamental platforms, the rules of the game have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's more. That's what more it feels like. That the startups are playing by slightly different rules than the bigger legacy brands. I don't know much. It just feels correct to say it. It feels like a nice sentence to say it. Guys, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I hope you had a good time. Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I've had a
great.
great time. as well.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for this.
Awesome. Amazing. I hope you guys also got to learn something from this. I don't know what you learned from, maybe you learned something on the product side, you learned something on the sales side, or in general, you got something on the EV side. My takeaway has always been that a lot of the entrepreneurs who actually meet, their story always starts with something small. Your story started with just doing this bike rental business for,
Right.
and at that point, I don't think you could have ever foreseen that it'll become this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you started with making Formula One vehicle in your
We
college.
started big actually.
Yeah, you
I've
have
gone the reverse.
a lot of young people get very intimidated by the idea of if it's how 1,000 crores, how I'll become. But it's probably you already know what you're already doing. So that's the takeaway for me. That
Absolutely.
no work, no opportunity is too small. Just work on it, and hopefully you will be the next, amazing rich millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire, whatever it is that you want to become. So thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank
Like, share, subscribe, etc., etc., etc. to Superleap. Okay, bye bye. Good night. Thanks so much.